Men usually don't end a relationship the way many women expect. They don't sit down for one big conversation. They don't always explain what changed. They rarely give every answer you're hoping for. Instead, they slowly begin acting differently while you're still sending messages, making plans, and believing the relationship is moving in the right direction. The energy becomes colder. The excitement fades. The effort slowly disappears. Before you even realize it, you're no longer the woman he's trying to impress. You're simply someone who stays in his life because it's easy. Many women don't lose a man because they made a huge mistake. They lose him because they didn't notice the moment his feelings started changing. And by the time everything finally becomes clear, the relationship has already slipped away. Here's a truth that people rarely say openly. Men often show their level of interest very early. Not through promises, not through charming words, through consistent actions. If you don't recognize those actions, you can spend months or even years investing your heart in someone who quietly stopped investing in you. But when you learn to notice the signs, everything changes. You stop wasting your energy on uncertainty. You stop chasing mixed signals. You begin protecting your peace instead of trying to earn someone's attention. Men are not nearly as mysterious as many people believe. The confusion usually starts when someone listens to beautiful words while ignoring obvious behavior. In this video, you'll discover 5 clear signs that reveal when a man's interest has faded, so you never have to keep guessing where you stand. Each sign gives you a better understanding of what his behavior is really saying. If you enjoy honest relationship advice that helps you stay confident without losing yourself, make sure you like this video and subscribe. Every video here is designed to help women understand men's behavior while keeping their own confidence strong. Stay until the end, because the final sign surprises many women, and once you notice it, you'll never look at dating the same way again. Most women are raised believing one simple idea. If a man isn't interested anymore, he'll just tell you. He'll be honest. He'll explain everything clearly. It sounds comforting, but real life often works very differently. Most men don't end things with direct words. They quietly communicate through changing behavior. They become more distant without making an official announcement. They respond less. They stop making the same effort. They slowly create space without ever saying they want space. This is where many women unknowingly lose their confidence. They keep waiting for a conversation that may never happen. They keep hoping he'll explain what changed, while his actions have already answered the question. Here's something few people talk about. Being direct can feel uncomfortable for men too. It may create conflict. It may lead to emotional conversations they don't feel ready to have. It may bring guilt or disappointment. Because of that, many choose the easier path. They don't completely close the door. They simply leave it slightly open, not because they see a future together, but because leaving things unclear requires less effort. A small message here, a little attention there, just enough to avoid difficult conversations. From the outside, it looks confusing. But once you understand the pattern, it becomes much easier to see. If you've ever experienced this, keep watching, because the next signs become even more revealing, and they could completely change the way you read someone's behavior. This is exactly why so many women stay in situations far longer than they should. They believe that if they become more patient, more understanding, or more supportive, his feelings will return. They give more time, more attention, more emotional energy. They convince themselves that enough effort will eventually bring back the connection they once felt. But genuine attraction doesn't grow because someone works harder to earn it. Real interest naturally creates consistency. When someone truly values you, you don't have to constantly wonder where you stand. You don't have to search for hidden meanings behind every message. His attention feels steady. His actions match his words. His effort feels natural instead of forced. When that interest begins disappearing, it usually doesn't happen through one dramatic moment. It happens quietly: one cancelled plan, one delayed reply, less curiosity about your life, less excitement about seeing you. These changes often appear small enough to explain away, which is why they're so easy to ignore. But small patterns repeated over time tell a much bigger story. The woman who understands this doesn't argue with reality or chase reassurance every week. She notices the pattern early. She trusts what consistent behavior is showing her. Real confidence isn't about forcing someone to become clearer. It's about recognizing that actions already provide the clarity you've been looking for. Keep watching because the first sign is one that almost everyone overlooks, yet once you recognize it, you'll never miss it again. Real confidence comes from recognizing the pattern before your emotions become too invested. The strongest women don't spend their time waiting for a man to choose them. They quietly pay attention to whether he is choosing them through his actions every single day. The moment you stop expecting complete honesty through his words, you begin noticing honesty in everything else. You see it in the way he looks at you. You notice it in how quickly he responds. You notice whether he naturally creates time for you or always seems too busy. Once you begin trusting what he consistently does instead of what you wish he feels, everything starts changing. You stop needing endless explanations. You stop trying to earn his approval. You stop pouring your energy into someone whose interest quietly disappeared long ago. That one shift changes the entire relationship dynamic. Now you're no longer reacting emotionally to every little signal. You're seeing the situation for what it truly is and making decisions based on reality instead of hope. That kind of awareness protects your peace, it saves your confidence, and it keeps you from chasing someone who already stopped moving toward you. This is exactly where the first sign begins to appear, long before a man ever admits anything with words. Stay with me, because once you notice this pattern, you won't be able to unsee it, and it could completely change how you read someone's interest from now on. The first thing that usually changes is where his attention naturally goes. Long before a man pulls away with words, he often pulls away with his focus. Attention always reveals what matters most. When a man is truly interested, his eyes naturally return to you. He notices you without forcing it. His attention stays connected because in that moment you are the most interesting person around him. But when his interest starts fading, that focus slowly drifts somewhere else. He looks beyond you instead of toward you. His attention jumps to his phone. His eyes follow people walking by. He scans the room instead of staying present with you. Once you understand what you're watching for, the change becomes surprisingly obvious. His eyes don't settle. They keep moving. They disconnect. They quietly reveal that his mind is already somewhere else. Many women misunderstand this completely. They tell themselves he's just nervous, shy, distracted, or having a difficult day. So they talk more. They become more entertaining. They work harder hoping to pull his attention back. But that's usually the wrong move. A man who genuinely wants to connect isn't searching the room for something better. He naturally stays engaged with the woman he's interested in. Watch closely the next time you're together. Notice whether his attention keeps returning to you or constantly escapes somewhere else. That small detail often tells a much bigger story than anything he could ever say out loud. Once you stop making excuses, you'll begin seeing this pattern almost everywhere. You're having dinner together, yet he checks his phone every few minutes even though nothing urgent is happening. You're standing in a group conversation, but his attention follows everyone else instead of finding its way back to you. You're sharing something meaningful, something that matters deeply to you, yet he only listens halfway. He nods at the right moments, but his mind clearly isn't present. His replies sound automatic. They feel empty. They don't build the conversation forward. That's not simple distraction. That's a shift in priority. Here's the difficult truth many people struggle to accept. Men naturally give their attention to what still captures their interest. When a man truly values the connection, his eyes and focus repeatedly return to you without effort. When they don't, it's often because something else has already taken that place. The more you chase his attention after it's already drifting, the more exhausted and frustrated you become. Attention can't be demanded. It responds to genuine interest, not pressure. The strongest response isn't trying harder, it's recognizing the change sooner. When you quietly step back instead of competing for his attention, everything becomes clearer. You stop feeding a connection that is already losing life. You stop trying to prove your worth. Suddenly, the entire situation reveals itself. Either his attention naturally returns because he realizes your value, or it continues moving away. In both outcomes, you gain something priceless. You stop pretending everything is fine when it isn't, and you finally give yourself permission to move forward with confidence. Another place where the truth quietly appears is in the sound of his voice. A man's tone often reveals his feelings before his actual words ever do. You can hear genuine excitement, you can hear curiosity, and you can also hear the moment emotional interest begins, fading away. When a man enjoys talking with you, his voice carries energy. It rises and falls naturally. He speaks faster when something excites him. He becomes softer during meaningful moments. Warmth flows without effort because real interest creates emotional energy, and that energy changes the way someone communicates. But when those feelings begin disappearing, the voice often changes first. It becomes flat. His replies become shorter, his pace slows, the tone feels distant, not angry, not emotional, simply empty. Many women immediately explain it away. They tell themselves he's exhausted, overwhelmed with work, stressed about life, or simply having a bad day. Sometimes that's true. But pay close attention to something important. Listen to how he speaks with his friends. Notice how animated he becomes, discussing topics he genuinely enjoys. Then compare that energy to the way he talks with you. Same person, same afternoon, completely different tone. That difference often says far more than any explanation ever could. Keep watching, because the next part becomes even more revealing, especially if you've ever wondered why someone's texts slowly start feeling colder without any clear reason. Text messages reveal the same pattern. When genuine interest is alive, conversations have a natural flow. His replies feel thoughtful. He asks questions because he actually wants to know more. He shares extra details without being asked. The conversation keeps moving because both people are contributing equally, but once interest begins fading, the messages become shorter and emptier. Replies arrive later, answers shrink into one or two words, conversations begin feeling like obligations instead of something he enjoys. You send something funny and receive only a quick "ha" or "lol." You open up about something personal and get back "okay" or "cool." The warmth disappears little by little until the difference becomes impossible to ignore. Unfortunately, many women respond by trying even harder. They write longer texts, hoping he'll finally engage. They add more excitement, more emojis, more stories, more emotion, believing extra effort will bring back the connection. But attraction rarely grows under pressure. Healthy relationships work through balance, not chasing. When one person keeps giving more while the other gives less, the distance usually becomes even greater. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stop filling every silence. Stay calm, give space. Let his level of effort become visible without covering for it. That's when the truth finally becomes impossible to miss, and that truth gives you the freedom to choose yourself instead of endlessly chasing someone who has already started letting go. The moment you stop rewarding low effort with endless energy, the entire relationship begins to change. Without saying a single word, you show that you are not here to carry the connection by yourself. A healthy relationship should never depend on one person doing all the emotional work. When you stop overgiving, one of two things usually happens. Either his interest naturally comes back because he notices your absence, or it becomes obvious that his interest had already disappeared. In both situations, you win because you stop wasting your time. You protect your confidence instead of slowly giving it away. A woman who refuses to chase tiny pieces of attention becomes someone whose presence suddenly feels valuable the moment she stops giving it so freely. Then something even more important begins to happen, something many women never expect. His energy doesn't simply become quieter, the entire dynamic starts shifting. There's a very specific point where everything changes, and most women don't even realize it while it's happening. It isn't when he walks away. It isn't when he suddenly disappears. It isn't when he says he needs distance. It happens the moment you begin giving more because he started giving less. You feel the change before you can explain it. The warmth fades, the comfort disappears. Instead of stepping back, you lean forward. You explain yourself more. You lower your standards. You become more patient, more understanding, more flexible, believing your extra effort will bring back what slowly slipped away. Stay with me, because this next pattern is one almost everyone misses until it's far too late. This is the exact moment where confidence quietly begins slipping away. Many women grow up believing that trying harder always proves love, but attraction doesn't always work that way. When someone is already pulling away, increasing your effort often sends the opposite message. The more you explain yourself, the more you try to keep him emotionally connected, the more you reveal that you're investing in something he has already started leaving behind. Without a single argument, the balance changes. One of the clearest signs appears in something most people barely notice. It's his tone. Tone isn't only about sound, it quietly communicates respect. When a man truly values you, the way he speaks carries warmth, curiosity, patience, and openness. You feel comfortable sharing your thoughts because his voice welcomes them. But once he stops worrying about losing you, that tone often changes. He interrupts more often. He becomes impatient. His answers grow shorter. He sighs. He rushes conversations, nothing dramatic enough to start a fight, yet enough to slowly change how you feel around him. Many women immediately make excuses. They blame work, stress, lack of sleep, or a difficult week. Sometimes those things are real, but sometimes the changing tone is quietly testing the relationship. He's watching how much distance he can create while you continue accepting it. Keep watching, because the next detail becomes even more revealing, and once you recognize it, you may never overlook it again. Here's the painful part that many people don't want to admit. Men usually don't speak with that colder tone toward women they truly value. They reserve their patience and kindness for people whose opinion still matters deeply to them. Watch how he speaks to someone he's trying to impress. Listen to the warmth in his voice when meeting someone new or talking with a person he wants to win over. His attention feels genuine, his words flow naturally. Then notice how different he sounds with you. The replies become shorter. The conversations feel rushed. Your words almost seem like interruptions instead of something he enjoys hearing. That contrast often reveals more than any direct conversation ever could. One mistake many women make is continuing to invest while quietly accepting less respect. They answer dismissive behavior with even more patience. They respond to emotional distance with greater understanding. Every time this happens, the imbalance grows stronger. Real respect rarely comes from asking someone to treat you better. It comes from deciding you won't stay where respect keeps disappearing. Calm distance often communicates more than endless discussions. Quietly stepping back speaks louder than emotional pleading. Without saying anything, you communicate one powerful message. This version of me no longer accepts this version of the relationship. At that point, the connection either improves naturally or reveals that it has already reached its end. Either outcome gives you clarity instead of confusion, and clarity is always worth more than false hope. Another place where the truth quietly appears is through body language. A man can say all the right things while his body is telling a completely different story. Physical behavior often reveals feelings long before words ever do because the body reacts naturally. It doesn't rehearse. It doesn't carefully choose what to reveal. When a man genuinely enjoys being around you, his body naturally opens toward you. His shoulders face you. He leans closer during conversation. His feet point in your direction. Being near you feels comfortable, not forced. He finds little reasons to shorten the distance. Maybe he lightly touches your arm while laughing. Maybe he naturally chooses the seat beside you instead of the one across the table. None of it feels planned because real interest doesn't need planning. But when those feelings begin fading, subtle changes appear. His arms stay crossed. His body angles away. He leans backward instead of forward. He places objects between the two of you. A phone, a jacket, a bag. Small barriers that quietly create emotional and physical distance. These details seem tiny, yet together they tell a much larger story. Don't miss what comes next, because this is where many women accidentally start chasing someone who is already stepping away. Many women ignore these signals because his words haven't changed yet. He's still polite. He still says things like sure, maybe, or that sounds fine. Those polite responses keep hope alive, even while his body tells a different story. The truth is simple. A man may agree with his words out of kindness, but his body almost never pretends. Watch carefully during a date. At first, conversation flows easily. He leans closer. Then, little by little, something changes. He sits farther back. His posture becomes closed. He stops matching your movements. He checks his phone more often. None of these actions happen by accident. They quietly signal emotional withdrawal. In groups, the pattern becomes even easier to notice. Instead of naturally facing you, he turns toward other people. His attention settles with friends while distance slowly grows between the two of you. The same thing even appears through texting. Replies become slower. Plans become uncertain. Maybe replaces clear commitment. Digital distance often reflects emotional distance. The biggest mistake is trying to close that gap by pushing harder. The more you chase someone who keeps stepping back, the more pressure replaces attraction. Healthy attraction needs room to breathe. The woman who notices this early doesn't argue. She simply matches the space. She relaxes. She stops forcing connection, and that quiet decision creates something powerful. It allows the truth to become impossible to hide. The final sign is often the clearest because it removes nearly all confusion. When a man is genuinely interested, effort appears naturally. He asks about your day. He starts conversations. He makes plans instead of leaving everything up to you. He follows through because real interest creates action. When that effort slowly disappears, the message is usually already there. Still, this is the reality many women struggle most to accept. Instead of real effort, they begin receiving tiny pieces of attention. Short replies, long delays, conversations that never go anywhere. He responds when you reach out, but he rarely starts anything himself. You carry every conversation while he simply reacts. This isn't mystery. It's a pattern. Sometimes people give just enough attention to keep someone around without building anything meaningful. Watch how it shows up. You ask thoughtful questions, but he never asks about you. You suggest meeting, and he answers with, maybe, we'll see, or I'll let you know. Plans never become real, momentum slowly disappears, yet somehow he's still active everywhere else. He has time for friends, time for hobbies, time for social media, just not enough time to consistently invest in you. Many women call this being busy because accepting the truth feels painful, but attention that requires no effort rarely carries much value. The moment you stop filling every silence, stop dragging conversations forward, and stop chasing clarity from someone who benefits from keeping things unclear, everything changes. Not because you're trying to punish anyone, but because you're finally respecting yourself. A woman who expects equal effort never has to announce it. Her actions quietly say everything for her, and that's where real confidence begins. She doesn't have to announce her standards. She shows them through what she no longer gives away so easily. And this is the part that changes everything. Many women are afraid to step back because they believe it automatically means losing the man they care about. But the truth is very different. Staying in a situation where there is no real effort often guarantees something even more painful. You remain available all the time. You stay easy to reach. You slowly become someone whose presence is expected instead of appreciated. The moment you stop chasing and quietly create space, one of two things usually happens. He steps closer because he realizes your value, or he continues moving away. Both outcomes give you something important. They show you exactly where you stand. They protect you from investing months or even years into a place that was never truly yours to hold. This is why some women rarely find themselves stuck in endless uncertainty. They don't spend months surviving on tiny pieces of attention. They don't remain trapped in situations that slowly fade without direction. It isn't because they are more beautiful, more intelligent, or somehow more interesting than everyone else. It's because they move through relationships with a different standard inside themselves. They don't chase signs of interest. They quietly watch to see whether genuine interest already exists. Stay with me because this final shift brings every lesson together, and once you understand it, your entire way of looking at relationships may change. When you look at all of these signs together, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. His attention begins drifting somewhere else. The warmth disappears from his voice. His tone becomes shorter and less patient. His body slowly creates distance. His effort fades until you're carrying the entire connection by yourself. None of these changes happen in isolation. Together, they tell one consistent story. They often reveal how comfortable someone has become receiving your attention without giving the same energy back. People rarely test the ones they truly fear losing. More often, they test the ones they believe will stay regardless of how little effort they offer. This is where everything finally becomes clear. The woman who earns lasting respect doesn't spend her time demanding explanations. She doesn't repeatedly ask for reassurance. She doesn't waste endless energy trying to decode mixed signals. She pays attention to consistent behavior once, accepts what it reveals, and adjusts her own actions accordingly. Not from anger, not from fear, from quiet confidence. She doesn't over-explain herself when the energy changes. She doesn't negotiate after respect begins disappearing. She doesn't lean closer when someone else keeps stepping away. Instead, she simply reduces her own availability. Keep watching, because this next mindset is the one that separates temporary confidence from lasting self-respect, and it's something very few people truly practice. Creating healthy distance doesn't mean becoming cold, bitter, or playing emotional games. It simply means understanding that your attention, your time, and your emotional investment have value. They are not unlimited gifts to hand out without care. They are shared where effort is returned, not where hope keeps asking for another chance. This is where everything shifts from techniques to identity. The biggest change doesn't happen because you memorize dating advice or learn clever responses. It happens because you stop asking whether someone will eventually choose you. Instead, you quietly observe whether they are already choosing you through consistent actions. That single change transforms the entire dating experience. Suddenly, you're no longer reacting to confusing signals every day. You're calmly filtering for people whose behavior already matches their words. Others notice that difference immediately. Not because you're pretending to be confident, but because your standards naturally guide your decisions. The rarest quality in modern dating isn't perfect confidence. It's the willingness to walk away from low effort without creating unnecessary drama. A woman who can calmly leave situations where interest is missing becomes someone whose presence naturally carries more value. Not because she's trying to play games, but because she finally stopped playing against herself. And once that mindset becomes part of who you are, recognizing unhealthy patterns becomes almost automatic.